Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a little 5-game slate here on a Tuesday night. In this game, we are taking a look at a pretty fun matchup. We hope the Dubs are visiting Milwaukee and those Bucks. So we'll take a look at that one. Also got another game video up and our player props. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us each and every weekday this regular season. Also head to thelines.com. That's where we have our great written content for you. Nate and the gang, our buddy, throwing all the good content up there. We also have our odds finder tool as well and all those articles, so you can make sure you're shopping those lines to the best of your ability across U.S. sportsbooks. Nate Weitzer, let's go ahead and get into these 5 games here and then talk about Dubs and Bucks.
My name is my name. Kings are +5 at the Sixers. De'Aaron Fox questionable for that one, so definitely keep an eye there. Suns are -6 at the Rockets, even though Devin Booker's going to be sitting. The other game we break down, Pelicans -2 at Utah right now, total at 232. Definitely like the Pels there. And the Celtics on a back-to-back are -3.5 at the Lakers. Don't have to travel anywhere after losing by 20 to Kawhi and the Clippers. This game, right now, Warriors are +4 at Milwaukee. It's kind of stabilized there, but the total has kept climbing. At 227 where it opened, I was interested in the over, and 6-7 points higher, I am now trending towards the under. I'll get into that in a second, but I think the first thing you have to do is not just take the cheese and assume, the Warriors are an awful team on the road, right? They're 2-11. They have all these terrible metrics, and therefore they're going to lose badly at Milwaukee. I really caution against that because we just saw what they did against Boston, and that being, granted at home, but that being a championship potential matchup, that being a real bellwether for how you're doing early in the season. And the Warriors brought it on both ends of the floor, really brought it defensively, which they have at home all season. But they can defend this Bucks team as well, especially with Drew Holiday questionable. Middleton left their last loss, and they scored 92 on the Rockets with an ankle, and he's probable, but I don't know how effective he'll be. And look, the last few times Giannis has faced the Warriors, Draymond has not been active. They actually missed each other, and so they haven't faced each other since January 2020, back when the Warriors sucked. I think Steph was not playing at all, so it was like Draymond going through the motions. So I don't know if I trust Giannis to have one of those 35-point outbursts. I mean, maybe he does, but it's all about efficiency in terms of whether that gets you over a really high total, 234 for a Bucks team. Scoring more at home, yes, but still averaging out to about 112 a game. For a team that's done a really good job on Steph Curry, too. I mean, I don't know how much of that is just him missing makeable shots, and he's in God mode right now. But, the Warriors are absolutely dependent on him. They were able to score 122 the last time they faced Milwaukee because Poole had 30 and Klay had 38. And while Klay's having a bit of a resurgence and Poole does have 20 in 5 straight, I think you switch gears here when you talk about how those guys are going to produce against the best defense in the league, right? I mean, over the course of the entire season, they fluctuated. But again, this is a potential NBA Finals matchup. This is where you will get the best out of both teams, where you might even consider it playoff basketball to a degree. And the Bucks are really good in terms of fourth quarter defense, 5th in points allowed, second to last in fourth quarter scoring. So they're used to that grinded out Eastern Conference type playoff basketball. And the last thing in support of maybe a little less offense than we're expecting is the Warriors give up the 9th fewest paint points on the road. It's much better than where they are at home. They do give up the most free throw attempts, sure, which is a problem when you're facing Giannis. But he's going to shoot 60% at the line over the course of a large sample size, maybe even worse if it fluctuates one way or the other. So, I mean, giving up free throws to Giannis, sure. But I would feel better about an under 234 if that's where this line settles or if that's where you can grab it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still a corner to be turned for this Dubs team to a degree. But I mean, the fact that they were able to come out against the Celtics and go like, I don't know. That's also a matchup thing. They've set the blueprint for how to guard Jason Tatum, and that's been a little bit of a struggle for him over the course of the last 3 or 4 games. So I think that had a lot to do with it. The last time they played on the road, they got a lot of points. It was against the team that we talk about in our other game video, and the Jazz, who are just bad on defense right now and are scoring an ass ton of points at home. So that I don't know how indicative that is because of the fact that they're now playing Milwaukee, and Milwaukee is a team that we talk about. They're giving up a 3-point percentage that's like 35.5, not bad. I mean, pretty good, not great, but they're also limiting the amount of attempts that you have per game as best they can. And like we say, they're allowing the players that that they want to shoot, right? And that would be obviously the Draymond Greens of the world. But there's going to be shooters on the floor for the Dubs tonight, and so the Jordan Poole sort of somewhat resurgence a bit does make you a little bit worried, as he's definitely sort of an X factor when it comes to the amount of points that this team scores. You know what you're getting from Steph, especially on the road. You started to understand what you're getting from Clay. He's had some averaging out to some nice stats because he's had some really big games and then some duds that sort of average out into a decent start this season. But the only thing that worries me about points and going under is if the Dubs decide to have the same level of pace and offense that they played with against the Jazz in Utah. If they do, then it's really just about the transition defense for Milwaukee, which is still really good, as we know. I mean, they're just good everywhere that they are. So I'm definitely not taking an over in this one as much as people might want to, especially with how fishy I feel like we all feel like that is right now. But the reason also to feel better about the under and not just avoid any kind of over in this situation is because of the fact that the Dubs have increased that defense, like we were just talking about, to a degree that you can feel good about. They've got the 8th best defensive rating in the last 10 games, and on the road in the last 5. I mean, they're better than they were. They were like 29th, and they're down to like 21st in terms of defensive rating on the road, still giving up points. And the way that they win on the road is by scoring more points. Though that's the only times that they have won, when they've beaten the teams that they've beaten, which are the Rockets and the Jazz on the road as of late, which is really the only teams. And then the Timberwolves, where they had that game, we thought maybe they're coming back. But all 3 teams I just said, Rockets, Timberwolves, Jazz, don't play defense. None of those teams play defense or know how to, apparently, and put much try into it. So I don't know what that means for tonight for the Dubs' ability to score, but I think if we're going to go with a little bit lower of a total on this game, then I'm feeling better about the Bucks to pull it off, because if you're going to play that level of slobber knocker, I don't believe that the Dubs can hang in the paint with them. As we know, the Bucks are scoring a ton of points in the paint, as led by Giannis, right? And so they're like 12th or so. And then in terms of allowing points in the paint, they're 3rd or 5th in the league. So like they're handling things down low in a way that's what you look at in a game where you don't expect as many, as wide open of a game, as much space or as many threes to be going in. Then you look at where else are they going to score from. And the Dubs not getting to the line enough, giving up too many free throw attempts. So I think there's a case to be made for an under and the Bucks essentially.
Yeah, I mean, they have gone under in 4 of their last 6 meetings, and one of the overs can be thrown out as Christmas of 2020, where nobody in the stands and the Warriors again sucked. So, I mean, and they had 99 points in that game. And so this is not really about how these teams play home road for me. It's about how they play when they play each other. And the pace really slowed down. It was 95.4 pace the last time the Warriors were able to beat the Bucks, excuse me. And again, because Clay and Jordan Poole had ridiculous efficiency, the Bucks have good defenders off the bench to deal with Poole. I don't think he'll be going off like that again. And then the previous matchup in Milwaukee, the Warriors decided to ramp it up, 105 pace, and they lost by 19. Giannis had a triple-double and was plus 22. So, I mean, I look at this much closer in terms of their last 3 road games. At Utah, at Mini, were absolute ridiculous shootouts, and the Warriors are fine playing that type of game with them. Against Dallas, I think, is a much closer representation, but that was also played at a much faster pace, 104.5, because they want to tire out Luka, right? You want to get Dallas in transition. They're not they're not as good in an up and down game. You don't want to do that against the Bucks. So even though that game almost got to 230, Dallas was able to limit the Warriors from 3, but like you said, the Bucks do that very well as well, chase you off the line this year. And if the pace is slower, like I'm expecting it to be, because I do expect that kind of playoff atmosphere down the stretch, then I think, I feel pretty comfortable about it being in that same range or lower. And that's what I feel more comfortable about, because I don't know if you can just blow out the Warriors when they are really geared up to play on the road. And I also don't trust them to cover on the road, because they've just been awful this season for the most part, although slightly turning a corner. At least their last 2 losses were only by a total of 4 points.
Yeah, which makes you feel better because they actually competed in those. It's interesting. I just said that I would prefer Milwaukee and the under, and you were like, yeah, but actually the last bunch of times they played, when they play slower, the Dubs do better, and when they play faster, the Bucks do better. So I don't know. Either way, I would still feel. What's that?
But they all went under.
But they all went under, and that's the key. So let's not worry about who's pulling out the win in this one, to your point, which is the point we've been making most of the time anyway, which is go under the 234 and feel a lot better about that. These games have not been reaching that total nearly as much, and you even mentioned that faster pace against the Mavs that they were running, which way faster than we expected, especially in Dallas, and still, that game only got to 229 compared to this 237 total. So I think we feel pretty good about going under, as it's gotten inflated so much. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. Coming back at you each and every weekday this regular season. So until we see you next, happy betting.